in the summer to save up for through the winter. And then the way we design suburbia just doesn't make sense.
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
That's South San Francisco. Urban sprawl.
Yeah.
Manzanita powder?
And
Sugar.
when you look at all these different houses, they're just trying to get as many houses as they can. This is Village Homes in Davis. Every single house is south facing and has a place to grow food south facing.
But that's a pretty cool place to live.
That would be really, you can't buy a house there though because no one wants to move out.
Where is it? I'm sorry.
Davis.
I think it's on N Street in Davis. Village Homes. You can look it up.
And Jeff Lawton did a whole tour of that on, there's a YouTube.
I know, but the thing that bugged me about his tour was The Lost. I mean, come on, Jeff.
The Lost?
The Lost Davis
The
Village
Lost
Homes.
Suburb, I know, it was a little, well, he's a little dramatic.
He's getting dramatic now that he's gotten professional. Okay, so then I want to tell you about this place. This is under I-210, Freeway 210 in Glendale.
I've heard about
And they have a fifth of an acre and just a regular 1920s track home.
They had a movie of a circle film.
Yeah, they actually were up here too. And they planted their entire property on with edible landscaping. They grow about 6,000 pounds of food a year, which is enough for them to sell to all their neighbors and a farmer's market and themselves. And they call this a homegrown revolution using our hands as weapons of mass creation. So this is one of my clients in Reno. And they've got a half an acre backyard, which is, I don't know if you have a backyard like this, but this is also typical in Yuba City and Chico, and you know, back when they had a lot of land. So we had a work party there, and we laid out this whole compost, or sheet mulch, and immediately planted into it. So we planted a food forest right here. So when you look at how the ancients designed, you'll notice that I'm going to show you the same building in the winter. This is the winter, and this is the summer. You notice it's in full sun in the winter, and in the shade in the summer. So how do they do that? By knowing where the sun is. And we teach a lot of this in my classes. Anyway, I have been teaching passive solar greenhouses for about 40 years. And that you would put one on the south side of the house would be the best place. And you look at the pattern for a greenhouse based on that sun, and then you use natural convection to cool it in the summer. And when I became a flight instructor, this was at the college that I was at in Southern Arizona, and I always watched this because this was a greenhouse. So tell me how the design is. They've got this green stuff everywhere, and they had to put a whole thing on top of it, and now they got a swamp cooler. So how was that designed? Well, they even planted a tree on the west side. So how'd that design do?
A little too hot.
Not too good. But I like this one. This is in a truck, so you can just move it.
Oh.
I think it's pretty unique.
Except for the fossil fuel part.
So this part here is a sun heater that you make outside your house. You can put it like into a window, and then the heat comes, the sun hits it in the winter. I want to do something like this on my house because I'm sitting in the house and it's cold, and outside it's hot. So I want to do something like this and then bring that heat in through a window.
What would you call that?
Sun heater?
This one's called a sun grabber.
Sun
There's
grabber.
also ones where they have Coke cans and they're spray painted black, and you can find those on the web too. But these things work really well. It's amazing. They can raise the temperature 30 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, why pay for gas or why pay for electricity? So one of the things I like to talk about is sustainable kitchen, sustainable cooking. I'm always at Earth Day usually. Well, I don't know if I'll be there this year, but this was a class I did in Chico with all my different solar ovens and hay boxes, and I've got about 6 different kinds of rocket stoves, and it's really fun once you get into it. This is called a panel cooker, and they're used for refugees throughout the world. And typically the refugees are given like $2 a day in the refugee camp. And they have 3 things they've got to buy: water, food, and wood, or they have to walk for one of them. So if we can teach them how to cook solar, they don't need to buy the wood and they don't have to walk because then the $2 will buy water and food. So that's a cool thing. This is a solar wall oven from my mentor, Barbara Kerr, and it's really cool. I have one of these, because you can cook from inside the house. You just stick the food in. This is one of my favorite ovens, a Solar Sunsport,
I
which
have
faces up in the summer and faces towards the sun, which is low in the winter. So I'm just giving you a taste of all these things, because permaculture is much more than gardening. Water, of course, is a big deal. I mean, we have a strange one here. I came from the desert where it rained in the summer. We had the monsoons in the summer, and then we got a little bit of rain in the winter. But here, we get the rain in the winter and nothing in the summer. So if we don't get winter rains, we're screwed, right?
Yep.
So a couple things that I'd like to mention to you, and I'll be teaching classes just on these at some point in the future, but at my permaculture design courses, we go into detail on these. Gray water. Our county thinks that gray water is the same as black water, just as dangerous. That means poop water. So we're looking to get a bunch of people together and go confront them. It's a woman named Peggy who has no clue. And the state of California has legalized gray water, and she won't basically allow it here.
It has to be permanent, right? It's
What?
supposed to be permanent, right? Gray water systems?
That's not her problem. Her problem is she says it's the same as black water. Yeah, Lynn Lawrenson has a whole thing on it.
Who's Peggy?
Peggy's the head of environmental health.
Oh, yeah.
And she is a woman that goes, I said so it's going to be like that. And you're like, wait a minute, you work for us. You work for us, honey. You know? No, she's with the county. So gray water, sometimes it's worth doing gray water. A lot of times it's not. Like at my place, there, you know, the only thing I can really get out is the washing machine. And of course, I was dumb and bought an energy efficient washing machine. So it uses about that much water, so it's not worth doing gray water, right?
Well, and you have to be careful too if you're on a septic system, because you can't take too much of the water away because your septic's designed,
But as long as you're
right?
pooping and doing showers, you're fine. Yeah. But anyway, in some cases, gray water really works. And at some point in our county, we will go to the Board of Supervisors and change the rules for the county. In all the counties around us, they're paying people to do gray water, so they should be doing it here too.
I think it should be mandatory.
I think it should be mandatory, and if the drought keeps going, it will be.
Development.
Yeah.
Or golf courses.
Roof water harvesting is the way people throughout the world get drinking water. And when you do roof water harvesting, what you do is you separate the initial water off the roof, because typically it has bird poop and all kinds of stuff on it. So there's a way you can move that water off first and take it away from your storage, and then the cleaner water fills up your roof water. And then you can, oh, by the way, with gray water you can't store it. It has to go straight into your soil. We put gray water into mulch pits, which just means a lot of mulch in a hole. And gray water cannot be above ground. It has to be underground. Some really nice applications are doing it off your, it's legal to do your laundry here, but you have to get a permit, which is nuts.
Wait, it's
crazy.
what?
Legal to use
Your laundry water.
As
I
long as
see.
you don't have diapers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so what you typically do is you'll have the PVC going out through the wall, and maybe this PVC line right here, you take the back of your washing machine and stick it in. It goes to the apple trees, maybe this one. You move it over, and this is the peaches. Maybe this goes over to the fig or whatever.
What about the laundry soap and stuff that's in?
There's three kinds of laundry soap that are really good, but the guy that has the best laundry soap is Oasis Design. His laundry soap is for gray water. So then going back to the roof water harvesting, you can harvest a ton of water. The problem is that it costs to store it. It's about a cubic foot to buy storage for water.
Are we
But-
dealing with regulations here in the county against that? Because I know, for example, in the state of Washington, it is illegal to do that in many of the
I
counties.
think it's changing in Washington.
Who's going to catch you?
I have not heard anything
She's
against doing it
asking.
here.
Who's
Yeah.
going to catch
When
you?
you say it costs to store it, are you saying it's taxed?
No, to
Or
buy
to
the
buy the
container.
container.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the
exactly.
tanks are
Yeah.
expensive,
Tanks
although there's
are
some
an
really
investment.
beautiful ones out there.
Yeah.
Right. So in permaculture, we like to store water in the soil. And that's really one of the most wonderful things that permaculture does, is all the various applications of how to store water in the soil, in little dams, in swales, in rock dams, and medialunas. There's lots of different things that we do in permaculture. Because when you have it in the soil, it doesn't evaporate. If you have it in a big open pond, it's going to evaporate.
Well, repeat that one more time, all the lists that you just said,
Well, there's a
dams
huge
and
list,
soils
but
and,
I'm just naming a couple of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Like
Mm-hmm.
dams or ponds, swales, gabions, medialunas, one rock dams. There's just a whole lot of different things that you can do. And when you take a permaculture class, we go into great detail with this, which I think is fascinating personally. I don't know if any of you saw my talk at water harvesting at the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference.
Have you done anything with wicking beds?
You know, I don't know anyone that's successfully done it in a way that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that?
Wicking beds where you have a storage of water and then you have a wick that goes out to the plants.
Well, not necessarily a wick.
Well, it's like a little ropey thing.
Well, wicking beds use capillary refill. So let's say you have a raised bed. So the bottom portion has the ability to hold water, we'll call it a tray for lack of a better word. And once the water, and you water your plants from the bottom. It goes down a pipe to the bottom. The water fills up the tray, okay, for lack of a better word, and then the roots and the capillary action of the soil bring the water up as needed. So it's very far from the surface,
Yeah,
but
the
the
problem
roots
is
are all down.
you have to have the bed where there's no cracks in the side.
Yeah.
It has to be one piece.
No,
Which makes it
just
expensive.
the water part has to be one piece.
Yeah, but what
Anything
happens
above
when you
that
have
can
a
go
raised
up and
bed,
around it because
when
the
you have
water
a-
can cap sideways, capillary.
But when you have a
sideways.
raised bed,
Mhm.
the heat from our summer sucks the water, the
Right.
moisture out from between the beds, which is why I don't recommend raised beds. In
Yeah.
all desert places or places that have dry summers, you go into the soil rather than
Exactly.
above it.
I could never figure that out.
Yeah.
The raised beds come from the Puritans coming from Europe,
Uh-huh.
and
Where it's
they
wet.
came to Boston where it was very, very wet, and they needed that drainage. So, but you could do that down into the ground too. It makes it easier
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about having.
Right, and I was using that as the example because a lot of
Yeah.
people have raised beds. So,
Yes.
Do you have any beautiful gopher help?
Gophers. Well, okay, my cat goes after gophers, and if I see a gopher hole, I immediately go in the house to the cat box and get a poop and go stick it down the hole, and they leave.
See, we don't have cats because we are obsessed with quail.
Borrow,
Dogs don't do
borrow
quite
a
as
neighbor's
well.
cat poop.
I need somebody to give me some
Bo-
cat
borrow
food.
some poop.
Because I am
Everybody's got litter boxes.
harvesting
Everybody's got litter
gophers.
boxes.
Harvesting gophers.
Borrow
So
a cat
there's
for a
There's a
while.
whole hour on gophers at Eco Farm that I went to this year, and there are some amazing things you can do to gophers. But the easiest one for me is to stick cat poop in there because they move. They don't let it be there.
Well, where do they move to?
They go away from
Okay.
the
Your
yard.
neighbor's house.
To your neighbor.